Hello, everybody. If you dialed in a little bit earlier, I'm Jack Bianco from the Small Business Administration. We plan on getting started in just a couple minutes. Couple quick housekeeping notes since we're going to have an active session this afternoon is that we will mute all of our attendees to really keep the focus and the audio working for our key presenters and our panel that'll be introduced in a little while. Feel free, if you have the capacity on your particular device, to add any chats or questions you have. We've got a team here that will be replying there that'll either complement what our speakers are addressing during their remarks or any common items that might come up in terms of URLs or websites that we promote from SBA.gov, one of our partner organizations or resource partners. But again, thank you for dialing in early. We will get started in just a minute or two with a formal introduction for our opening keynoter. All right, hello everybody. We're going to get started here. Again, my name is Jack Bianco. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just want to give folks a couple quick reminders if you're either watching this live during the session or perhaps an archive later on as we provide this on SBA's YouTube channel. We appreciate your time and your interest in cybersecurity, protecting your business, and other operational modes of excellence that the speakers are going to talk about today. I have the benefit of introducing our first keynoter. SBA's Mark Madrid is our Associate Administrator for Entrepreneurial Development at SBA headquarters. Mark oversees a wide national network of what we call resource partners or grantees, truly partners. They comprise about 2,000 physical locations throughout the nation and include 10,000 men and women that serve as business mentors and coaches to America's small business owners. Mark also has developed a number of initiatives here at the SBA to serve special markets, whether they're high growth firms, online learners, or other audiences in rural America, partnering with our Native American communities, and just you name it. Mark has really expanded our services. He's also the founder of SBA's Cyber Summit, which occurs annually in November. So Mark has really dug deep into the issue of cybersecurity with all of our partners and engaged us and prompted us to provide even more education. Besides Mark's individual skills as a leader and a strategist, he has deep experience with our chambers of commerce across the United States, the world of academia, and economic development organizations. As we say, Mark often can bring Wall Street to Main Street, and as you'll see today, the White House to your house. He's also a great boss, so with that, let me introduce Mark Madrid. Mark.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for those words. A great afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this timely session entitled Fortifying Your Business, co-hosted by the United States Small Business Administration and the White House Office of the National Cyber Director. Today, we have an incredibly important topic to discuss: protecting your business with a side of cybersecurity thrown in there for good measure. As more and more aspects of business operations move into the digital realm, the need to protect small businesses from cybersecurity threats has never been greater. From data breaches to ransomware attacks, the risks facing small business owners in critical industries are diverse and ever evolving. I just got a call from a small business owner a week ago, and he said, because of a ransomware attack, it cost us $30,000. $30,000 from 1 minute to the next. But amidst these challenges, there's also reason for optimism. With advancements in technology, come a timely and critical blueprint of resources and tools available to help small businesses owners and their businesses, their employees protect themselves and their businesses from digital threats. That's the bottom line. And today we are energized to be joined by a panel of esteemed speakers who will share their insights and expertise on this critical topic. We will be discussing key strategies for safeguarding small businesses, exploring the latest trends in cybersecurity, and highlighting the invaluable resources and supports available to business owners. Our speakers represent a diverse range of backgrounds and expertise, each bringing a unique perspective to the table. Together, we'll delve into the importance of cybersecurity preparedness, the role of technology in mitigating digital risks, and the steps small business owners can take to safeguard their livelihoods. But most importantly, today's discussion isn't just about raising awareness. It's about empowering you, our audience, with the knowledge and tools you need to navigate the complex landscape, because it is complex, of cybersecurity and emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. So sit back and try to relax and get ready to dive deep into the world of cybersecurity and small business success. So let's get started. And it is my honor to introduce our first esteemed guest, a true partner to small business and the SBA, Jake Braun. Jake serves as acting principal deputy of the National Cyber Director at the White House. Previously, he served as senior counselor for transportation to the Secretary of Homeland Security. He was initially appointed by President Joseph Biden as senior advisor to the Department of Homeland Security's Management Directorate in February of 2021. Jake, we share that start date. He is also a lecturer and former executive director of the Cyber Policy Initiative at the University of Chicago Harris School of Public Policy. He works at the Center of Politics, Technology, and National Security. He is the author of the book, Democracy in Danger: How Hackers and Activists Expose Fatal Flaws in the Election System, and has co-authored 3 award-winning and seminal works on election infrastructure cyber vulnerabilities. Jake, thank you for joining us, and the stage is yours.
Well, thanks so much, Mark. Really appreciate you having me, as well as SBA in general. It's a great honor to be here with all of you, in particular because before coming into the Biden administration, I was a small business owner as well. I actually ran a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. I'm not a service-disabled veteran, my business partner was, but nonetheless, we did a lot of work with the federal government, as well as other work on the with the private sector and otherwise. And so I definitely have been in the situation that most of the folks, if not all of you, that are on this call today and trying to think through my firm's cybersecurity, and knowing with limited resources, because you've got to make payroll every month and so on, how do you actually make your firm secure? And in our case, since it was a cybersecurity firm, it was a particularly acute concern. And so I have know that it's tough to really think through what you need to do to make your business successful, make your employees successful and taken care of, and at the same time keep an eye towards cybersecurity and so on. Unfortunately, as Mark mentioned, there's more threats. While there's more opportunities in the cyberspace than ever, there's also more threats. We're seeing ransomware attacks that are high profile, like you've seen in healthcare and school districts and so on. But there's far more that go unreported and unnoticed against small businesses. And we know it's both a nationwide and even a global issue, these ransomware attacks against small businesses, and that's just the kind of sexy type of attacks. There's also the run-of-the-mill phishing attacks and identity theft and opening up fake credit cards in your name and so on, which happened to me as well when I owned my own business. And so we applaud you all for caring enough to get on a call like this to hear what you can do, and we're hoping to hear from folks later about what you're doing, so we can all learn from you as well. Because frankly, we know that small businesses employ the most people in this country. They are what drives innovation in this country, and without you, the Biden administration wouldn't be able to complete any of the key pieces of its agenda, in particular the Invest in America program, which includes three kind of seminal bills, which actually are related to cyber, which I'll get to in a second. One is the bipartisan infrastructure law. So think kind of investing in bricks and mortar, bridges, airports, roads, stuff like that. The Chips and Science Act, which of course is going to onshore many of the chips that power our technology, as well as a whole host of other high-tech issues. And then finally, the IRA, which is trying to move us to a clean energy future. All of those programs are definitely going to require, big multinational corporations to help implement, but without exception, all of them and pretty much every project that those three bills, which make up the Invest in America program, will go to fund will absolutely require thousands of small businesses to implement. And while cybersecurity is only called out in a few places in those bills, it is implicit through every project that's funded through those bills, because in today's day and age, you can't even, build a road without having cybersecurity involved in it, much less an airport, and certainly not a chips foundry or a connection of, solar panels to the grid or something like that. Everything has to have cyber in it today, and we're hoping that's where many of you come in, and where hopefully those investments will help grow your business as well. And to that end, we're really excited about what SBA has done with the Small Business Pilot Program, where they're investing $6 million with folks on this call to protect small businesses in Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Ohio, Hawaii, and Wyoming. And so I think we'll hear from those panelists soon, which will hopefully be useful information for all of you. And when these programs start to get data back, will hopefully be useful information for myself and other folks in the cyber office here in the White House as to how we can better provide or suggest more support for you all in cybersecurity of your own businesses. And in particular, any of you who work with the federal government, you are of a particular high-level target for those seeking to go after the federal government, which we know is happening, thousands of times a day. I'm sure Mark is in the same place I am, where we had our top secret security clearance information stolen by the Chinese back several years ago. And we know attacks like that are happening all the time. And oftentimes they target small businesses to get in. So we want to go through some ways in which we're trying to be supportive. I think the folks on the call today will talk about how we're trying to simplify requirements for small businesses in terms of contracting with the federal government, and also how we're going to try and enable small businesses, particularly who want to work in cyber, to access a far broader pool of workers than maybe we were allowing for before in cyber, by reducing barriers and entry to workers that you all may employ someday, where we're not requiring as onerous of requirements for workforce to perform on federal contracts as we had in the past. For example, removing some of the 4-year degree requirements for workers, also helping you all identify federally funded training opportunities for your workers or those you would like to hire helping with setting up things like internships and apprenticeships to onboard folks who either could protect your own cybersecurity or could perform on federal contracts where we need a talented cyber workforce. And so to that end, we really encourage everybody on this call. Clearly, you already think about this at some level, or you wouldn't have gotten on, to think about your own cybersecurity. And honestly, I know when I first started at my firm, we had to really think through, okay, what different cyber controls are we going to put on our network to ensure that, the bad guys can't get in, or at least make it harder, and so on. But one of the positive developments in the last few years that I'd really encourage everybody here to consider is whoever's providing your kind of office suite, whether it be, for example, a Microsoft or a Google or whatever, they all now have far better security controls in place in these office suites that you buy to manage your own, accounting systems and documents and email and everything else. And if you just do the very simple action of turning those security controls on, that'll dramatically enhance the security of your business, because essentially what you'll do is transfer much of the activity that goes into securing your company's systems to Google and Microsoft or whoever you use for your office suite. And those companies have a lot more resources to be able to help protect your documents, your databases, your emails, and so on, than you likely will or want to spend on those types of things. But I know we were talking to one of the big guys that provides these office suites recently, and they said that only about 20% of businesses ever turn on those security configurations. And so we really encourage everybody on this call to do that. It may be the single easiest and best thing you can do to protect your business. We really look to continue to partner with SBA and all of you moving forward to help enhance the cybersecurity of the United States in general. Also, this $2 trillion of investment that's coming through the Invest in America program, and finally to you all and your businesses, because we know you're under attack every day from ransomware and identity thieves and so on and so forth. And since you're the ones who employ more people than anybody else, and are really the drivers of innovation in this country, we need you to be secure, and hopefully we can do our part to help you get there. So thanks everyone for getting on this call. Thank you, Mark, and SBA in general for having us, and look forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Jake, for your insights, and thank you for connecting the President's Invest in America plan to our resilient small businesses. We can't think of a more resilient group in the country. And that's a priority for our U.S. SBA Administrator, Isabel Casillas Guzman. Grateful as well for connecting the dots to your remarkable efforts in your office to the integration of workforce development and cyber. Now it's my honor to introduce our next distinguished guest, CU Mo. With a wealth of experience in cybersecurity and a passion for helping small businesses thrive, CU brings a unique perspective to today's discussion. CU serves as the Assistant National Cyber Director for Cyber Workforce Training and Education at the Office of National Cyber Director, ONCD. We love our acronyms. In his role, CU leads and supports the creation and implementation of the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy. He believes in taking a holistic view, doctrine, people, and technology to making advancements in cyber workforce and digital safety awareness. He is an expert in the intersection of cybersecurity, technology, and national security with 17 years of experience that spans tech development, policymaking, and political campaigning. Prior to ONCD, CU was the office of Senator, worked at the office as Senator Mark Warner, where he served as senior fellow in cybersecurity, technology, and national security. In that capacity, he worked on cyber workforce, healthcare cybersecurity, and competition with China legislation. And prior to that, he led engineering teams at Salesforce to integrate cybersecurity features on mobile devices and applications. Prior to Salesforce, CU co-founded an advocacy group to organize and empower families, and that's very important, on education and economic issues. He ran for office and worked on various presidential and congressional campaigns. CU began his professional career with building AI-powered optical character recognition technology for check scanning. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to CU Mo.
Thank you so much, Mark. That is a long intro, and I hope that I cut it. But we are very busy working for the American people. But in any case, thank you so much, SBA, for hosting this discussion on a critical role that small businesses play in protecting our economy and country. I share President Biden's commitment to small businesses, as I come from an everyday American small business family as well. When my family first immigrated to this country, they started a small business grocer distributing and selling produce, mostly oranges. As a boy, I learned firsthand how the American dream can be achieved by a hardworking small business family. Each day, I saw my family work hard to be responsible with costs, meet customers' needs, and deliver high-quality products. Waking up at the crack of dawn to open the grocery store, working with our vendors to get high-quality products, and taking note of our returning customers' preferences, and making sure that each of those oranges that we sell will perfectly line up every day when someone walked by. And I watched my parents work day, night, weekends, and bit by bit, orange by orange, and box by box, we grow the small business to provide for me and my siblings. I believe my family's small business story is one of the millions of American dreams, small business stories that make this country great. So thinking about my own family, I cannot imagine the devastation that we would have experienced if someone broke into our store or stole our assets, our financial reserves, or customer credit card information. This is essentially what a cyber attack is. It is a digital theft of small business assets and information that can harm the small business, employers, and customers. Unfortunately, as my colleague Jake Braun mentioned, in our increasingly digital world, we see an increasing number of cyber attacks targeting our country, communities, and small businesses. This is why I'm here today to further President Biden's commitment to small business economic prosperity and national security through cyber to protect our small businesses. In my role in the Biden administration, I have been tasked with expanding workforce and education opportunities in cybersecurity to protect economic prosperity, including with small businesses. Today, I'm going to share some updates that we have been working on in the administration to support you in contracting, workforce, and education. I will share what we have done, how this benefits you, and what you can do as a small business to further protect yourselves and your country. In federal contracting, President Biden has increased opportunity for small business as part of increasing cybersecurity in our country's infrastructure. You heard from Jake earlier that the president has achieved a historic $1.8 trillion in investments to rebuild, secure, and strengthen our country through the bipartisan infrastructure law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Cybersecurity is represented as part of that infrastructure resiliency and security, which presents small businesses an opportunity to be part of bidding for and completing contracts to get this infrastructure work done. To facilitate more competition and expand federal contracting opportunities to small businesses, President Biden has been working on reducing onerous requirements that kick smaller players out. As my colleague mentioned earlier, if you're a small business in contracting, you can strengthen your bid in incorporating cybersecurity into your plans, and by working with vendors that use modern cybersecurity practices to prevent compromised security vulnerabilities and breaches that will be costly to repair down the road. In workforce, we have been working on solutions to expand the cyber workforce we need to protect our economy and our country. President Biden believes one of the strongest pillars of our infrastructure is our people. This is why equipping our infrastructure with workforce with necessary skills, resources, and training to be able to operate in our increasingly digital world has been a priority of the president and the administration. This includes expanding the cybersecurity workforce to address cybersecurity needs. We understand that you, as a small business, you need enough people in the cybersecurity workforce to hire or contract to meet your cybersecurity needs. Unfortunately, when President Biden came into office, we noted that our national supply of cyber workers is nowhere near where we need to be. And today there is almost 500,000 jobs openings that are still unfilled. To address this challenge, last summer, our team worked to publish the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy, which kicked off a cross-country collaboration effort with industry, government, education providers, and training institutions to promote solutions that will increase the number of cybersecurity workers so you can have the talent pool that you need. In less than a year, this successful implementation of our plan has secured commitments from industry, government, and educators to train over 1 million cyber workers and invest an additional $450 million. For you as a small business, I am here to share with you the strategies we have been expanding to support our country in meeting cyber workforce needs. First, consider skills-based hiring. Four-year college degrees is one way to do it, but it's not the only way to demonstrate the skills needed to complete cyber roles. You as small business owners are the experts in knowing what skills is needed to complete day-to-day work of solving problems, delivering results, and working well with others. And those can be obtained with many paths, not just through a four-year college degree. When you hire cyber workers, develop a job description that is skills-based and evaluate candidates based on their skills, which they may have obtained through college, certification programs, and/or real-world experiences. Second, consider apprenticeship programs that develop the next generation of cyber workers while providing you with early talent to inform and meet with the cybersecurity realities. The field of cybersecurity is rapidly changing by the day. So what was the best practice 20 years ago may not be, still the best practice today. New talent through apprenticeship programs can offer you a new set of cyber workers. In education, we've been working on making cyber education more accessible to all, including small businesses like yourself, to secure your digital assets, much like you lock your doors, in real life. To navigate our digital world, Americans needs to be equipped with some basic foundational cyber skills, just like how that's a skill that we need in the 21st century. And to promote this, the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy by the White House has included a full section on how to transform our education system that has resulted in our collaboration with educators nationwide. For the general American public, we have been working with certification, training, and education resources and providers to make more of them available to you and your workers, as well as your family members at no cost. And this is accessible through digital platforms so that it will also reach rural communities as well. As a small business, much like locking your doors, it is critical you have your cybersecurity hygiene up to date to protect you from cyber attack. To make this cyber information more accessible to all, including yourself, we have secure commitments of no cost training, all which can be found on whitehouse.gov/cyber workforce. The Biden administration will continue to collaborate with small businesses to promote our country's economic prosperity and national security. The White House ONCD office will look forward to continuing our collaboration with the SBA. We're excited to continue to look for ways to partner with SBA so that we can travel nationally and provide more updates and support for this opportunity. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and good luck to you and your small business. Thank you.
Thank you, CU. It's tremendous when we can get a sense of who's leading our efforts with Jake and you and the team over at the White House. And to bring it down to the small business level and your family business truly connects the dots once again. So we hope you enjoyed those two remarkable presentations from CU. And of course, Jake, thank you so much for being with us. And now I'd like to introduce Ekta Markulier, who is our regional administrator for the US SBA. who is tremendous. I could go on and on about Ekta, but one of her passions is cybersecurity. I'm not going to steal her thunder, but I can just tell you, she is not only a tremendous colleague, but she's a tremendous human. Ekta, over to you.
Mark, thank you so much. What an amazing introduction. In today's world, we are so interconnected. And as you've heard from our guests earlier, small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and they are driving innovation, creating jobs, and fueling growth. But we know with this great opportunity does come a lot of responsibility, especially in this realm of cyber. So good morning and afternoon from me to you, depending on your location, and welcome again to our Fortifying Your Business featured session. I'm Ekta Markulier, as Mark mentioned. I am the Region 8 Administrator covering the Rocky Mountain region, serving Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. And today we're diving into my favorite subject and a critical topic that affects small business every day, and that is of cybersecurity. I have so much passion for this topic. Now more than ever, small businesses are the prime target for cyber threats, ranging from data breaches to ransomware attacks that we've heard of before. The consequences absolutely can be devastating to our small businesses, with potential financial losses, huge financial losses, reputational damage, and unfortunately, even the risk of business closure. But as we mentioned before, fear not, there are a lot of great resources. The U.S. Small Business Administration offers a range of services and resources designed to help small business owners protect themselves from digital risks. I know that because when I worked at an SBDC, I used these resources as well to educate small businesses. From educational webinars and training programs to access cybersecurity experts and tools, the SBA is absolutely committed to empowering our small business owners with the knowledge and resources they need to safeguard their digital assets. We keep saying the same thing because it's important. We are proud of our partnership with our Cybersecurity for Small Business pilot states, who you will hear from soon, the SBDC's North Star Network, the Small Business Digital Alliance, and of course, the partners we have at the White House Office of National Cyber Director and other federal agencies such as CISA and the FBI. Today, we are privileged to host a special panel session for you featuring leading small business advocates and cybersecurity experts who share their insights and expertise on this incredibly crucial topic. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists, Paul Johnson, Wyoming SBDC, a cyber pilot grantee serving Wyoming, Professor Sachin Shetty, Old Dominion University cyber pilot grantee serving Virginia, Vimal Samuel Buck, Ohio State University cyber pilot grantee serving Ohio, Leslie Skiba, Cyber Readiness Institute, who participated in the SBA Cyber Summit. Together, they will explore the latest trends in small business cybersecurity, share practical tips and strategies to mitigate digital risks, and highlight the invaluable resources available to small business owners through the SBA and their programs. So stay tuned. This is an incredible journey that we're about to embark on, empowering small business with the knowledge and tools they need to survive and thrive in today's digital landscape. So coming back on screen, my friend and Associate Administrator, Mark Madrid. Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Ekta, for setting that tone. And this is a big deal for us. I mean, Ekta laid it out so well that our small businesses are under attack. And it's something that we think about. It's something that the administrator thinks about all the time. And so we want to take or reduce that rapid heartbeat that I've heard a small business owner say to me. I get rapid heartbeat when I think about this topic. I know that I need to do something, but it's just too much. I'm running my business. I'm running the finance. I'm the CFO, the CMO, fill in the blank O of this operation. And then to think of cybersecurity on top of all of it. So I think that most of you can relate to that. So we have this terrific panel, and they represent 3 of our SBA cybersecurity pilot for small business grantees, the Wyoming Small Business Development Center, Old Dominion University, and Ohio State University. As Ekta mentioned, additionally, we are thrilled to have the Cyber Readiness Institute. So panelists, please take a moment to introduce yourselves before we begin. We'll start with Paul Johnson from the Wyoming Small Business Development Center, then Professor Shetty from Old Dominion University, on to Vimal from Ohio State University, and then Leslie from the Cyber Readiness Institute. Paul, go right ahead.
All right, thanks, Mark. Great to see you. Great to see Ekta today. We're a grantee from SBA to run a cybersecurity for small business pilot program statewide in Wyoming. And we have been up and running since September. And I would say we have passed the ramp up phase and are into the production phase. And maybe we can talk some more about that as we go along.
Good afternoon. My name is Sachin Shetty. I'm a professor in the Department of Electrical Computer Engineering at Old Dominion University, and I also an executive director of a Center for Secure Intelligent Critical Systems. So we also started late fall last year, and one of the things that we did was I'm always with any project, I want to listen to the community. And so we organized a workshop, even though we had submitted a proposal acting like we knew what we were talking about based on my experience, but these things change, emerge. And so we organized a workshop at ODU early January, just to hear from the community what their pain points, what's the landscape, and what emerging challenges, because the goal of our project is to develop this training program. And so we wanted to get the inputs on how to prioritize the content, what would be the delivery mechanisms, and how it could be impactful for them. So again, we'll talk more later during this panel. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm with the Ohio State University Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence. So we are a R&D organization on Ohio State's West Campus, and we serve as a portal for small and medium businesses, typically manufacturers, to access the resources of the industry. So we have a lot of experience, specifically in the manufacturing area, working with small businesses. And we're excited, and the state of Ohio has invested a lot recently in educating all the citizens in cybersecurity education. And we have been working over the last, since program launched, to try to align with the CISA grant that the state of Ohio is also running as part of a general Ohio cyber comprehensive plan that aligns with the national security initiatives issued by the White House. So we're developing training, and we hope to be rolling it out soon, and it'll align with the resources that the state of Ohio has that I'll touch on, that we can kind of talk through, including a cyber range that all citizens can access and use.
Hi, I'm Leslie Skiba. I'm the Global Director of Outreach and Partner Engagement for the Cyber Readiness Institute. And the Cyber Readiness Institute is a nonprofit organization that provides free and accessible resources for small and medium-sized businesses. We were founded in 2017, and it came out of a private-public partnership that aimed to address cybersecurity gaps within the U.S. And a number of the industry partners that were a part of that commission decided to get together and found the Cyber Readiness Institute. So our entire program is focused on the human behavior aspect of cybersecurity. I really like what Mark said a minute ago about how small businesses often know that they need to do something about cybersecurity, but they don't know where to start or have the resources to go the technical route. So that's what the Cyber Readiness Institute aims to alleviate a little bit.
That was wonderful. And thank you to the team that is supplying the links for these resources. We want you to sit back and just really internalize, and hopefully you can have one or two takeaways from this session. We're going to follow up with you with all these links so that you can have them all in one place, all in one time. But thank you to the team that's supplying these chats. So let's get started. We'll start off with Vimal and Paul. What are some cybersecurity threats right now that are facing small businesses? Because that could have been something else a month ago, but what are you seeing with your expertise and on the ground?
So one of the things that's sort of been happening in the manufacturing sector, at least, and Ohio is the third biggest state by manufacturing output, seventh by population, and manufacturing employs the largest amount of people, and most of those manufacturers are small, medium businesses. So one of the things that's been going on is the trend of Industry 4.0 that a lot of people might have heard, and that is basically interconnected devices. So even as early as, or as late as 20 years ago, most of the things that were designed weren't designed to be on 24/7. And what we're seeing with Industry 4.0, what it is a big it's an umbrella term for a lot of different enabling technologies, but the general gist of it is a lot of digital manufacturing and data. And what you have are these legacy systems that previously were air-gapped, but now with Industry 4.0, they are not air-gapped. And a lot of the new IoT devices that are sort of coming out, even the industrial ones, they're sort of designed with not a lot of headroom to where firmware updates and other things can happen. So one of the things that is kind of a bit interesting things is how do companies deal with the ramifications of Industry 4.0 adoption, because small and medium manufacturers are going to be the weakest link in the supply chain, right? They often supply the larger manufacturers, large employers like Honda, Intel, others. They'll have very robust cybersecurity systems, but it's usually the small, medium manufacturers that are sort of the link that are kind of going into that. Some of the different challenges that are kind of faced there are, data, the same challenges that are probably faced by IT systems, kind of faced by IoT, is how the data integrity of files, stealing of IP, taking production offline. Those are sort of the things that small businesses in manufacturing have to uniquely worry about now, especially with a lot of more interconnected systems.
Our Wyoming business base is a little different. It's a lot of 1- and 2-person operations, and that's the majority of the businesses that we work with. And Leslie, we are leaning on content from the Cyber Readiness Institute to do a lot of our training with these small businesses. But two of the big threats that we've seen so far emerge this year are a huge increase in social media site hijacking. And when you're a 1- or 2-person business and somebody steals your business site, you don't have much luck getting it back. And that's been a huge problem. And we've had several clients going through that right now. Another one is, maybe you wouldn't consider this a real technological cybersecurity issue, but we're seeing a lot of successful phishing attacks through mobile phones. The emails are smaller. You can't scrutinize the URLs or the domain names as easily, and people just automatically click. So those are a couple of issues that we're seeing, along with all the other regular bad actors out there.
Thank you. And that is why we have a range of grantees. We can't, there's not a one size fits all for small businesses, whether you're talking about the Industry 4.0 or if you're thinking about a mobile situation, which some of our smallest of the small, they rely on that mobile phone to run their businesses. So thank you for laying that landscape. And speaking of landscapes, Professor and Leslie, can you talk about trends specifically with small businesses? So trends could be a good thing or a bad thing. Please enlighten us, Professor and Leslie, on trends in the cybersecurity space, specifically relatable to small businesses.
Yeah, I think in terms of trends, I think we have all been watching the dawn of AI and machine learning intersecting every facet of our life. And some of us have been tracking the emergence of private GPTs and private language models. And so again, I see that as a twofer. So I see AI and machine learning used by the good guys and the bad guys as well. So it's a tool that is used by both, and especially in terms of the landscape, why that's critical is that, and we know this as well, small businesses have a very restricted budget, so they can't hire people. And so if you look at their budgets per month, they are getting more and more restricted, to the point that you are making about they have so many things to do. The question is, can AI and a private GPT be that resource? And so again, so far, private GPTs have just been released out there. They're not for the non-technical people. You don't have a geek squad that can help you there. However, in terms of future, right, I definitely see some of my team and there's several others who have been starting to create private GPT for, let's say, risk management framework. If somebody's trying to get themselves an authority to operate or trying to get themselves compliant with some of the cybersecurity regulatory standards, it's a painstaking process. Can a private GPT be trained enough to do so? So again, this is something that eventually will happen, and with the emergence of private GPT, I definitely see that happening. And there are other aspects. Yeah, initially we just heard about cyber range earlier in the conversation. So especially I support some of the small business in their SOCs. And so one of the biggest challenges is the abundance of alerts that come in. And it's a cognitive overload. Can AI have consulted some of the small business companies on the use of AI to reduce the cognitive overload on keeping track of alerts? Again, it's two-first. set up overhead process to make sure the AI is trained. Again, when I say that, I always am very cautious because you cannot just throw the AI to and expect it to do magic. But we talk about future. So again, future is going to be crawl, walk, and run. It's just not going to be blazing with any type. So that's number one. Number two that I see is, and it's a little in the future, but it's here in terms of R&D, quantum computing and the benefits quantum computing could have with helping us encrypt information, decrypt information at scale. And that's, even though it's in R&D phase, again, not enough accessible devices here, but I see that as a way to us to get there. Finally, blockchain. And this is some of the research that I do, and I try to bring into the small business community using blockchain and AI as a way to get assurance of identity management. For me, it's if you want to stop or combat cybersecurity, we got to get to the crux of the problem, which are two. Can I trust the entity that I'm dealing with, digital or physical? Can I trust their behavior? If I'm able to address those two with certain degree of assurance, I would have made a significant impact on just gaining the upper hand on cybersecurity. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Great. So I would completely agree that AI and quantum are absolutely on the horizon for things that SMBs are going to be looking at in the future. Blockchain as well. They're really topics that come up pretty regularly. Taking a slightly different take on the AI aspect is going back to kind of the basics. You mentioned briefly about how AI can assist in helping small and medium-sized businesses digest the information that they have access to, but in a slightly different way. If we look at how bad actors could possibly use AI, creating more believable business email compromise or ransomware notes, phishing emails, things like that. Those are things that we're going to need to kind of go back to small and medium-sized businesses and explain how to identify what those emails are. In the last question, it was brought up that phishing is really prevalent among small and medium-sized businesses, and many folks use mobile devices. We're constantly using our mobile devices to answer emails, answer text messages, vishing, giving information out as fast as you can over the phone, right? We're constantly in the state of reacting. So we need to be able to take a step back and make sure we have our fundamentals in place. And that's really what the Cyber Readiness Institute materials talk about, is that fundamental aspect and looking at not only your threat landscape and the different threats that you're going to face, because absolutely phishing, business email compromise, ransomware, and AI are all topics that are trending in the small business community. We actually just recently did a survey on small and medium-sized businesses and also organizations that work with small and medium-sized businesses to address some of these trends. And in early April, we'll be releasing this State of SMBs paper, so we'd be happy to send that around to everyone, addressing not only some of the trends, but also how we can address some of those trends. MFA is one of them, because those business email compromise attacks, maybe you have a password that's weak and someone does happen to brute force it. Are you able to have MFA so you can stop that attack before it actually happens, right? There's a lot of different ways that you could approach this. But again, going back to the basics, and also with AI, learning how to use tools like ChatGPT and other things. Because we all know that most of our employees, or even I'm guilty of it, I've tossed some things into ChatGPT, but something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about is those are learning models. And Professor just mentioned this. There's a lot of things that can go into it. You have to teach it, and understanding that possibly putting proprietary information into these models might pose a risk in the future. So just educating SMBs on what is safe use of AI should be something that we should think about as we move forward.
Thank you both. I mean, thank you for introducing a realm of topics that are small businesses, depending on how much you've heard, how much you've adopted, or maybe not, We talked about quantum, we talked about chat GPT, we talked about also, Professor, thank you for laying out the concept of trust, because there are so many concerns with AI. There's all the benefits that we want to expose here. There's also ethical concerns that we have to be mindful of that's ever evolving. And then Leslie, I can't appreciate you more for saying, let's get the fundamentals down for whatever level you are, whether you're a one-person shop or have 500 employees, to come back to the fundamentals. And you also laid out, it reminded me, you're the readiness, that's in your name. So here at the SBA, we talk about capital readiness. We talk about certification, procurement readiness for our small business owners. And now we have to think about cyber readiness. So I want to get back to Paul. Paul, it's great to see you again, as always. Thank you for your work there in Wyoming. But coming back to what you said in terms of the small businesses that you are supporting, can you talk about some of the issues and expand on the issues that you were describing and the accompanying solutions that you'll have through this grant and support?
Yeah, I think with most of our clients, it's I liken it to doing your taxes on April 14th, or things that keep you up at night that you don't want to get to. Our small business owners hate doing their own accounting in a lot of cases, but they have to do it, and they're coming to the realization that they need to do something about cyber readiness, but they don't know where to start. And I'm going to plug Leslie again and the Cyber Readiness Institute, because if you're on this call and you don't know where to start, go to their website and take their 2-hour training that talks about changing human behavior in 4 core areas, and you will feel so much better about the safety of your business online if you adopt some of those suggestions. We're talking about basic password maintenance and management, use of USB and external drives. Les, you might have to help me with the other 2. No, I know what they are. Software updates and avoiding phishing attacks. Yes. Just covering those 4 areas is probably the main thing that we're stressing with our small businesses, along with doing a complete inventory of their hardware and software, making sure they're not repeating passwords, just doing an internal audit of where they are and just helping them with human behavior. Our program is really focused on human behavior change. Of course, we're going to provide technology resources for those companies that need it, but we're really doing one-on-ones and webinars and just continuing the conversation of changing human behavior around these basic areas that can just make you feel safer online, and act with a little bit more responsibility, I guess, and training your staff as well. So that's really the focus of our solutions and attention.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you for reinforcing some basics like we've been talking about. And for others, we're talking about more graduated topics. But so we're really, this is a holistic view. So if this is basic for some of you, it's a good reminder in some cases. If it's more advanced for you, it's topics that you'll probably encounter in the future. So thank you for just your willingness and open heart, open mind. Because I know I get annoyed sometimes. I'm in a rush, you know what I'm talking about? And I'm trying to get to verify that credit card transaction. I'm like, oh, you're asking me to text this code, and sometimes I get annoyed by it, but I have to think of it, it's an investment in my protection. And so I submit for your consideration when you have those moments, especially as small business owners. We don't walk in your shoes. Wow, you're the most resilient group that we know, but just think of it, those measures are to protect your business. And depending on how you're structured, as Ekta mentioned earlier, it could be devastating not to employ some of these basic measures and more of these graduated measures if they apply to you. So over to Vimal, I want you to, sir, can you talk about how small business owners can assess their current cybersecurity posture, because it is a posture, and identify proactively, because we said also earlier, try to be proactive and not reactive, proactively identify potential vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to push, at least, is compliance with some of the NIST 800 controls. So we're trying to develop training that's in line with that. And I'm going to have all my undergrads go through this Cyber Readiness Institute training now that sort of made aware of it. But in general, our plan sort of builds on that one. The NIST 853 is for government, 171 is for defense manufacturers and others. But the concepts are kind of around, doing the things that Paul talked about, a comprehensive cyber inventory, right? Developing a cyber anticipation plan, having like an incident response, and kind of thinking through like, what are your vulnerabilities and gaps, and then having a plan to kind of address them, like a plan of action and mitigation, and then trying to do, like what happens if you are compromised, right? The needs of manufacturers are sort of different sometimes from the needs of IT systems. IT systems are mostly, trying to protect data, whereas manufacturing and small businesses, at least in the manufacturing realm, it's to keep availability up, right? And not have production go down. So in trying to do that, like, where are your backups? What is your plan if X, Y, and Z happens, right? Do you even have backups? Kind of going through and doing periodic assessments against those NIST controls, seeing, do you have ghost accounts on your IT systems that are employees that have moved on that haven't been deleted? Do you have a mechanism set up to periodically evaluate those and make sure that those things get eliminated, right? Do you actually have a plan? And so our training, once it's fully deployed on all three gateways, the first gateway is more that cyber hygiene, cyber awareness. 90% of attacks start as phishing. So I think that will kind of get most of the lower hanging fruit, and then sort of going into like sharing best practices, building off some of the CISA things, because the needs are going to be very similar. But how do you keep upkeep of the CISA training is more geared towards, critical infrastructure. A lot of manufacturing ends up being critical infrastructure, but specifically looking at that and trying to say, what are your backup plans? What's your incident response plan? What's your continuity of operations plans? Do you have a plan? Just developing a plan. How do you think about it? How do you actually lay it out? And then there's a third gateway, which is a little bit more specific, that starts getting into if you have specific types of hardware. And then that ties in with other state mechanisms for more one-on-one. So the first two are kind of trying to reach the 1 million small businesses that are in the state of Ohio, and work through those. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
You did, because I'm glad you mentioned the 1 million small businesses in Ohio, because since the president took office, he calls them acts of hope, but there's been 16 million new business applications. So that's where my light bulb was shining brightly as you were speaking, because I was thinking not only of our established businesses, but those that have come into the foray of being our economic, we call them the giants of our economy, right? So there's the 16 million that put their passion to play. So just hearing these concepts and how you broke it down into those three components, I think is also helpful for our startups. And also, as our White House colleagues were brought on for so many reasons, but one of the things that they work on is the future of work and workforce development, integration to the cyberspace. So, Professor, with the rise of remote work, this is a problem that I hear about as I've traveled 35 states since 2021. With the rise of remote work, what are some key considerations for small businesses to ensure secure operations? And we talked just recently about the ghost accounts and that contingency plan, but please help us with some tips in this space, sir.
Happy to, because this is, I'm glad you directed this question to me, because this is exactly a problem that I was helping a small business address. And again, they had this challenges of updating their policies and procedures for remote work, and they needed help with making more specific. So here are the recommendations and tips. So number one, what usually happens with remote work is people allow remote access to the desktops. There's this protocol called Remote Desktop Protocol, and you can look it up in the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Lists a bunch of known vulnerabilities that are associated with remote desktop access. And if you search the acronym RDP, that stands for Remote Desktop Protocol, you'll see a whole slew of vulnerabilities that are just targeting that service that allows somebody from home to remotely log in to their work computer and access the machine through the desktop. And so that's a service that is routinely hacked, and those vulnerabilities are. And so the number one is to have proper firewall controls to limit the access to that particular service, because that's always it's a target for hackers. The second one, we talked about accounts. This goes into, and people don't like it, but when I teach cybersecurity, I have this 10 tenets, and one of the critical tenets is principle of least privilege. Thou shalt have access to accounts and data that's required for the work that thou hast to. So you have a job functionality. So the roles are clearly defined in organizations, and you should have only access to accounts and data that are pertaining to your work, and nothing more, nothing less. This is a huge problem in small businesses where there is this centralized control or one person having access to all the accounts. And when you do social engineering, and when I do this class for my students, I actually tell them, pick up any website and do social engineering to find out, would you be able to find out who is the administrator? And if you're able to find the name of the administrator, the email and phone number, that small business has a problem. Because usually when you actually register your business, you never reveal the actual name of your administrator. You try to keep it a generic email account that there are multiple eyes on. You always need to have multiple eyes on, not have administrative email just to a singular person and others don't. So you just have multiple eyes on it. So that goes into being able to have this concept of principal least privilege implemented in account allocation, permissions associated with those, and the type of data that they can access to it. And so a lot of times small businesses don't know how to do this. And we will mention about the NIST 800. That's the reason why the NIST 800 series has 18 control families. One of the key control families is called access control. It is the largest control family because access control is all about access to computer data, resources, to people. And the people are the subject and the objects are the resources. So what is the access control, which is the privilege and accounts and data? So those are the two things. Again, I don't want to go into too much into this. The RDP service, making sure that that is protected, and your access control policies and execution, and making sure that access to accounts are strictly following the principle of least privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. And I said earlier to the audience that the top 2 takeaways, you might have like 4 or 5 by now with these 4. I mean, this information that you're providing is extremely valuable. And your diverse set of lived experiences, once again, and professional experiences are really bringing some trusted resources to the table. That's another area that the why are we doing this? Because I've talked to so many small businesses. When they have the bandwidth, whatever that means, you know what I'm talking about, to research what the solutions are. If you go do a search, then you get all these lists of options. You don't know where to turn, and some of them are solicitations. So this is our effort to bring a trusted circle to you. And so that is our goal here. So hopefully you have 4 takeaways. So what I like to do is go to my old dependable 3x5 index card. And if I go beyond 1 index card, that's too much. So I try to limit it to what are those 4 takeaways that I'm going to have and that I'm going to do something about in the next 30 days. So to have a timeline for next action, and also think of it like this. Some of these are small steps, but a whole lot of little goes a long way. It's what my grandma taught me. So let's keep the conversation going. And now for the 4 of you, can you please share with us an emerging technology that is a solution, and tie it to maybe a small business owner that you've heard about, work with in addressing a problem? So this could be an emerging technology, or it could be what I call a burning issue for you in terms of a solution that you've thinking about, a small business owner that you've advised or heard about, and then a solution. So a problem and a solution, all within a small business owner's lens. Please, this is open mic at this point. This is for all of you. Let's go on with the discussion. Thank you.
So I can jump in on this. I know I mentioned multi-factor authentication, or MFA, before. It's not really a new technology. It's been around for a while, but there are a number of companies and a number of governmental organizations that are really pushing MFA. I believe the whole theme of RSA last year was more than a password, right? So what are we going to do in order to further secure our accounts? Multi-factor authentication is something that is really easy to implement. A lot of your emails and softwares have this already on like as a feature. You just have to go in and know how to turn it on. So if you guys have any questions about that, I saw that Jack posted the NIST guidance and CISA guidance for that in the chat. You can also check out the Cyber Readiness Institute for some additional information on how to turn on MFA. But I work with a number of small and medium-sized businesses and suppliers of large companies, government contracts, and MFA is something that we are requiring across the board. And again, it seems like it is a really small thing, but as Mark said, a little bit goes a long way. Microsoft released a stat, I believe it was in 2022, that 99.9% of account compromise attacks could be prevented by using multi-factor authentication. If you could do something that is free and really simple to do and block 99% of account compromise attacks, you probably should take that. It's a relatively small lift. As long as all of your employees are doing it, then it should be relatively straightforward. So I'll just pause there and leave that.
I can jump in next. So I alluded to this earlier about private GPTs, and I will mention the problem that it's going to help solve. So I work with small businesses whose biggest challenge is getting cybersecurity compliance, whether it's CMMC, whether it's FedRAMP, whether it's NIST Standard 53. It's an extremely challenging problem, and a lot of time it takes them 12 to 18 months to even go through the process and hiring consultants to do so. And the reason why, in terms of technology, I alluded to this, but I think I'll take the opportunity to dig deeper into this. So I think if people have been tracking, you can run your own private AI chat GPT with only using your own resources. Again, there are many options out there. Reddit has a local llama, and there are many other type of software models that help you train your AI assistant to basically your document your data to make sure that you can, and we have done this where we are disconnected the internet and ensuring that there's no callbacks to any other command control. The benefit of that is what we learned is in the whole compliance process is the systems people who build IT systems, they just don't want to do cybersecurity work, and cybersecurity people just don't understand the systems work. And so we feel like a private AI GPT, and we talk a lot, and I spent hours on end talking and collecting information to your point of taking notes. And that could be alleviated, I believe, with an AI chatbot, which could potentially even convert my voice into text, into knowledge, and building the knowledge graph specifically for the small business. And I strongly believe that as I mentioned earlier, it takes time to train it, but I strongly believe the technology to where you can have your own private AI GPT running on your own CPU. It's a little bit of investment. I've seen it even running on Raspberry Pis as well, low power boards. And the way technology is evolving, you can create your own private bot and be able to train it. It addresses workforce development challenges that we have in this area. And if you are trained enough to even speak to it, share documents, give it access to the whole document corpus, talk to it regularly and see how well it's trained. It's training a new individual and see if that could be your AI assistant for ARM. Again, it's specific for compliance, cybersecurity compliance. And I believe that's a trend that is here. Again, there isn't a cookie cutter solution for it, but if you have at least one IT person on your staff and they can actually take this right now, and over a period of time, you will create this knowledge graph of your own organization that could be a great assistant for you as you go through the compliance process. Thank you.
I'd turn your question on its end a little bit, Mark, and say, I'm not sure that there's emerging technologies that I know of that can help. We have enough technologies that people aren't taking advantage of. Multi-factor authentication, password managers, and a simple antivirus on your machine that you keep updated. I think we need to embrace the tools that are already there. They can take us a long way.
One of the ones, two that were actually mentioned earlier, one was blockchain. And that's essentially a decentralized ledger, right, that people can kind of keep track of. But for supply chain, it's really useful because now there's the blockchain that we're kind of familiar with for cryptography, which kind of allows unlimited people, unlimited like transactions. But you can have like, private blockchains which will allow, known trusted people and known entities to have transactions. And now you've got, more of a tamper-proof way that you can kind of keep track. And we are actively, there are open source implementations of this available. We are working to create some, our center is working with a vendor. So I know there are vendors that also supply this, working to create like playbooks so that small, medium manufacturers can learn how to kind of implement these, because there's the aspect of being able to point to some of these regulations and kind of show that you did some of these things in protection, as some of that responsibility gets pushed down lower into the supply chain. But then there's also the other thing of just kind of tamper-proof type of thing. So one of the things that we've sort of been concerned with, or as an active like research area, is how do you non-destructively tell, that some part that you got is the part that you were supposed to get? Because one thing is that the part fails. One thing is that the part never gets made, but more insidious is that I guess the part fails early, right? So if it doesn't last 5,000 hours or it fails early, that's a big problem. And I think blockchain can be used to kind of address some of those things. And we know that there are, I think you can kind of Google and find that there are companies that offer those small implementations. There is a cost associated with it, but it's sort of your on-premise that you can kind of run in your company. And then you can also run it in the cloud where you sort of can run it with known trusted partners that you can interact with. So you know that the integrity of those files is there. And then when you're running it on your premise, you can also have, there are hardware solutions between the computer and between like a 3D printer that will make sure that those things are potentially protected. So depending on what you're doing with that, the blockchain is one, and then AI is another implementation. So one of the things that Ohio State has been studying is a lot of low-cost verification methods, trying to see, there are AI algorithms that are used for preventative maintenance or predictive maintenance that sort of say, this part is going to fail because now this motor or this other thing is vibrating differently, or is consuming more current, or is not moving as like it should. Applying some of those same types of algorithms and other things to now saying, maybe this thing is behaving this way because it's been hacked, and trying to say, can we with computers and with cameras, and primarily cameras, but also lower cost devices. And these aren't like $20,000 cameras. These are, maybe a few $100 solutions. Can you maybe have some new technology that can kind of predict when some things have been compromised? So I think the AI and blockchain are two areas that are pretty important. And then just to kind of reiterate what a lot of other people have said, sort of training and existing solutions that are kind of out there, like MFA and zero trust of not giving out more information than you need. I think that even recent major cyber attacks that have happened have all sort of been because it started with a phone call and then they were in. So.
Well, thank you all. I mean, you heard a wealth of knowledge there. And I hope, I definitely was taking notes from each of the four of you. And each of you had reminders and you also had anticipatory measures. So appreciate all the Paul, your reminder that some of the technologies are already there. And then talking about other topics like MFA and blockchain and certainly the private facilities that one can incorporate in the small business environment. So thank you for everyone who's joining us. We're about in the wrap-up zone. So I'm gonna have one question for all the panelists. I say that we probably have about 6 to 7 minutes to wrap up. And so the question is this, and I'll just combine the last two questions for each of you. The first question is, we know that the small business owners themselves and the principals are so concerned about wanting solutions, something that they could trust, low cost, no cost. But what are your recommendations so that the employees of the small businesses also feel part of this project? That's the first question. And then secondly, what is your one takeaway that you would suggest for small businesses? Because I apply this principle to my own life all the time. We got to leverage repeat messaging as our friend. I know I have to do that. So you've probably said it already, that one takeaway, but we'd like it, if it's a repeat, we'll take it. So how can we get the employees involved and feel like they have skin in the game? And what is your final takeaway, the one takeaway for our audience today? We'll start with Professor, then Vimal, and I'd like to head over to Leslie, and then Paul.
Yeah, I think in terms of making employees empowered, it's the incentivization of their job practices. Because a lot of the times we talk about the employees to do the right thing, do cybersecurity practices. But what I've seen work in some cases, not all, is when employees are incentivized for doing good in terms of the cybersecurity practices, and organization being able to monitor to see how well the employees have done. And they feel like they're part of it because the fact that they exhibit good behavior, and it's almost like the cyber insurance model, right? If I buy cyber insurance and if I'm practicing good habits, my premium prices go down. And so that's the model that seems to work in cyber insurance models. So there's something when I talk about cyber insurance with small businesses, that's the model that works for them. If they exhibit good behavior, the insurance prices go down. Same thing, something that they could incorporate for their employees to be rewarded with good behavior. If they're phishing, a competition in terms of make sure that let's make sure that we don't click on phishing emails, right? And so create this friendly competition among the employees is something that really bands them together. That we are all in this together, and for us to be able to do this, I think that collective single thread that binds them together, that's really helpful. So internal competition, incentivization, that really makes them, the cybersecurity is not a nuisance. And you get rewarded for really doing good habits because you're a custodian of our data and our systems, and the fact that you're doing good, you should be rewarded for that. That's number one. And number two, the key takeaway for me, I think we talked a lot about external actors. In my experience, just my experience of working with small business organizations, because they don't have a lot of budget, I'm always concerned about insider threats, not to mean that we have malicious insiders, but the fact that we don't have well-trained people working for small businesses, that it's not that they're doing it knowingly, but unknowingly, that they end up either installing software or any practices. And this is where the training comes in. So I'm a big believer in training, constant touch points to better inform that sometimes it's our practices that puts us in harm's way. And so those are things that we can do, because those are things that are in our control. We can't do anything about all the ways that bad actors can get in, but the things that we can do, and this is what our program is all about, training and providing those tools to help those small businesses limit insider threats and don't make it easier. The reason why attackers go to small businesses is because it's easier. And the large business has a lot of resources to make it difficult. So let's not make it easy for them. Let's enact some of the tool that makes it difficult. So a real quick anecdote. I always make sure that my wireless access point's name is never advertised. So that means if you're in my neighborhood and looking for wireless access point to go after, you'll never see my access point. I turned that off. Guess what? An attacker is not going to wonder, hey, let me look at those wireless access points we're hiding. So it's a simple trick that I did to just not advertise myself. And so that way, they will not try to go after. If they still go after me, they got a grudge against me, right? So that's a different problem. But I'm all talking about low-hanging fruit type of things. So these are simple tricks that really help the organization reduce. It's all about risk management, reduce your risk, and that's my key takeaway. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that I think training is a fundamental thing. I think one of the things that can help small business employees feel empowered is that I think I've sort of vocalized this a couple different ways, but essentially in the past, safety used to be, somebody's responsibility. And then now safety is everybody's responsibility. I think the same way there's got to be a mindset change that cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. You can't really depend on your IT or your other staff to sort of be that main barrier, because that's it's not just their job responsibility. It should be sort of built into what every engineer that's sort of graduating is thinking about when they're designing, and then what everybody's thinking about from a thing that you should always have your eyes open, your antenna up to try to look for. These are the threats that are going to be sort of coming, and they're here. They're ubiquitous, and then frequent training to sort of fake phishing emails. I still get those at Ohio State from our IT department, phone calls, other things, just to sort of say, are you actually practicing what you've sort of learned? and annual training. That's sort of the low hanging easy fruit that people can kind of do. And then one of the other key takeaways that I have is look for all the resources. I know as part of this, and also like Ohio has a cyber reserve that's a volunteer cyber militia. There's cyber clubs, but there's resources at every level that can sort of be tapped for free training opportunities. At the federal level, there's Idaho National Labs has a whole host of training, but depending on no matter what subject you're looking for or other things, there's a lot of free information that's out there, and sort of tapping those resources is a key takeaway that I think people aren't either aware of those or, but as they become aware of them, there's a lot of resources that can kind of be leveraged to help address this and improve everybody's cybersecurity posture.
Well, I feel like you teed that up great for me. Thank you so much. So as far as keeping employees engaged and making them feel like they've got a part in it, one thing that the Cyber Readiness Institute does is they designate a cyber leader, which that could be the founder of the organization, could be someone that's in HR or IT, but it's just one person within an organization that has the ability and the comfort level to go to every single employee in the organization and find out what their job workflow is, how different policies and changes to technology might impact their job flow or their workflows. So getting this cyber leader to go around and talk to everyone gets employees to understand, hey, they're actually listening to me. So just as an example that I use pretty regularly, the Cyber Readiness Institute recommends don't use USBs, right? But there's a lot of companies and small businesses out there that use USBs. So if you were to say next week, nobody is allowed to use USBs, chances are if you don't give employees another option or some sort of way that they can still do their work without using that USB, they're still going to use the USB and they're not going to care what you told them. So it's really about making cultural changes. So whether it's providing alternatives or providing policies around the use of USBs. Maybe you only have one computer that is allowed to have external USBs that is not connected to the network. So if potentially you've got a malicious USB, it wouldn't shut down your entire network. So there's different workarounds. And really, Vimal, you said this exactly, and so did Professor. It's that change in culture. So really having the employees understand that it is everybody's responsibility to be cyber secure, to understand that they play a part in protecting the entire organization and essentially protecting their job security, right? Because as we all know, if a small business suffers a cyber attack, it's a significant percentage. I want to say like 85% of small businesses that suffer a cyber attack will go out of business within a year, which is significant. So if everyone understands that they play a role in their job security, they're going to be much more likely to participate. As far as a takeaway goes, I know that a lot of folks have mentioned resources and how there are a lot of resources out there, depending on what level you're at. There are a lot of free resources. Cyber Readiness Institute, NIST, CISA, all of these are free. And there's other resources out there too, outside of CRI, but I would highly recommend, I know that I saw a couple questions in the Q&A asking about guidance around cybersecurity as a whole. CRI has our free online self-paced program, but if you're interested in having someone review, let's say your internal policies or your incident response plan, just send us an email. We'd be happy to get on the phone with you and coach you through some of these fundamental aspects of cyber readiness and cybersecurity. But yes, so key takeaway, come visit this free resources, CRI, among others, NIST, CISA.
All right, what'd you guys leave for me? Echo everything that you all just said. So as far as getting employees involved, cybersecurity is a bottom line issue. It's just as important as rotating the stock or making sure you have internal audit controls on your finances. So when you treat it like that as a business owner, then it becomes an essential function of your business. We work with a lot of people in the service industry, and they spend so much time training on customer service. Let's keep the same emphasis on cybersecurity practices. One of the great things that the Cyber Readiness Institute goes through in their training is making this a constant conversation. I think there's a common misconception among some people that we did cybersecurity, we got it fixed. No, it's an ongoing situation because the hackers aren't stopping. They're getting smarter, so we have to stay ahead of them. As far as a key takeaway from today, I think a lot of small businesses treat the issue of cybersecurity like Fight Club. Nobody talks about it. So I think just having the discussion, like sessions like this today, and just opening it up and taking advantage of those low-hanging fruit resources that you guys all mentioned, and just taking that first step is huge. And I think that we just need to get to that point, and I think we're getting closer to it.
Thank you. That was a tremendous panel. I'd like to thank you all for your incredible insights. And you have seen, who have taken precious time on a Thursday to be with us. We can't thank you enough. We hope that you feel more empowered, right? And I would submit for your consideration, I do my own thing. Maybe it's for you, it's phone notes or some other measures or some AI tool. But what are those top takeaways that you are going to internalize now? I want you to take just 1 minute to write them down, internalize, use whatever device. And our call to action is, can you take an action to address a vulnerability, to reinforce a solution, to maybe take a second look at a second reference that you heard about today? That's our hope, because we are here to serve you. That's the bottom line. It is an honor to serve our small businesses. Administrator Guzman calls you, and we call you, the giants of our economy. You're responsible for 2/3 of new net jobs, for a half of America's workforce. We owe it to you. We owe it to you to give you the tools to feel more secure, or at least to give you referral points. So I'd like to thank our panelists. Of course, I'd like to thank the White House Office of the National Cyber Director with Jake and CU earlier today, and Veronica Puyin, who serves as a little bit of a glue from the SBA to the White House Office of the National Cyber Director, and the team, that dedicated team over at the White House, just making sure that, as Jack mentioned earlier, that we take what's happening at the White House to your house, and in this case, to make you more secure at your businesses. Thank you also to the inspiration daily that we get from our administrator, Isabella Casillas Guzman, who believes that this must be a priority for the SBA, not only for the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, the office that I lead, but for all the offices here. Ekta, who addressed us earlier, really set the tone, our regional administrator that has this passion for cybersecurity. Thank you for your leadership, and to the field operations and all our district offices that are implementing cybersecurity tools for our small businesses. Of course, our resource partners, our small business development centers, our women's business centers, SCORE chapters, our community navigators that are in this space as well. And I could not imagine functioning without a superb team. There's our producer, Alicia Coleman, who likes to fly underneath the radar, but without her, we wouldn't have this beautiful broadcast on a zero budget. Thank you, Alicia, just for once again coming through. Our ASL interpreters, so many times people go and not thank you for being here. You're providing a valuable service of accessibility. Thank you for being here. And a shout out to my senior advisor, Preston Harge, who's sitting right over there, who deals with me on a daily basis, as well as Alicia. A special shout out to our Deputy Associate Administrator, Yvette Collazo, who we talk so many times throughout the day, early morning and late at night. Thank you for your leadership and all that you do. And our Office of Entrepreneurship Education, that's responsible for overseeing our cybersecurity pilot for small businesses. And last but not least, the person who's responsible for this session, Jack Bianco. Jack, I mean, you've got a passion, you've got a Rolodex for this space. And what you did is you brought and curated this content, working alongside our White House Office of the National Cyber Director. You did a brilliant job. And so now I'd like to turn it over to you. And the final thank you is the most important one. It's to you, small business owners or service providers that are joining us today. It's a very hefty topic, one that keeps on changing, but you can depend on us to bring sessions like this to you. This is also going to be rebroadcast on YouTube, and we're going to send you a follow-up message. And we're going to be very distinct on our YouTube. We're going to break it down. At the minute 20, you're going to hear about this. At minute 33 and 15 seconds, you're going to hear about this topic. We've got to be more user-friendly when it comes to this topic. With that said, Jack, close us out, sir. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for all the participants today. Mark, to you for your leadership, enabling all of us. You've been a great leader, sort of pulling together all of our networks, whether they're federal partners, our state and university partners, and our subject matter experts. It's been an amazing year, last couple of years, sort of accelerating our cyber connections with the White House and other partners. We have so many industries and aspects of small businesses we want to protect. On the cyber front, making sure they have confidence in our access to capital and loan programs, the technical general business coaching, our procurement program. So all of this is very valuable. Let us wish you an early, happy National Small Business Week. It's coming up soon, and we encourage everybody to participate and recognize our small business winners, but also our education sessions held during National Small Business Week. As Mark mentioned, this session will be archived on SBA's YouTube channel, along with our SBA Cyber Summit. So a lot of modules folks can consume on an ongoing basis. Of course, go to sba.gov and sba.gov/cybersecurity for links and tutorials on all the topics discussed today, and you will have an ongoing toolkit to protect your business in the future. Thank you again for participating. Take care all.